morning, everyone. Teacher Thomas Thailand here. Hope everyone is doing well. We've been very busy here in Nakhon Nayok, Thailand. It is now July 17 on a Wednesday, which is a Thai holiday. So all schools and government offices are closed today. Come on. Blackie and Jake out for a walk. So I've been kind of busy, haven't been doing many videos lately. Been taking care of a lot of business, getting ready to make my trip back to the United States to visit my family. So it's coming up real soon. Look at how much everything is growing up in the bottoms. Unbelievable. By this point in mid-July is really the beginning of monsoon season. We've already had some good rain, but we really haven't had the monsoon rains yet. Bucky. She does not like to get her feet wet. So you really need the monsoon rains to get the waterfalls really rolling. When there's water in the waterfalls and they're not dry anymore, so they're still kind of nice to go see, but they're not at full capacity rolling yet because we've had a lot of good rain, but no big monsoon, no big flash flood type rains yet. But they say that normally about this time, mid-July, is when you can begin to expect about 9 out of 10 days will be rain. Now, obviously that doesn't mean all day rains, but 9 out of 10 days you will be getting rain. So not in the peak portion of monsoon season yet, but getting very close. So if you visit a province like Nakhon Nayok that's famous for waterfalls, the best time to make sure that the waterfalls are really rolling would be at the end of rainy season. So October, November are going to be the peak runoff periods because you've already had a lot of monsoon season, and then in November the rains just completely shut off, and that begins the dry season for December, January, February, March, April. So anyway, I'm excited about going home to see family. I haven't been home in a couple years. Just things didn't work out last year to have a good trip back to America. I really enjoy going home during the summer so that I don't have a big transition of weather. But Thai schools, their summer break, the 2 months they have off are March and April. So the last time I went home was April of 2017, and I'm from the Midwest, so anyone that knows how the weather is in Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas during those spring months, it's very, very volatile. A lot of strong, severe storms, temperatures are up and down. You can still have pretty good freezing weather in April. So it makes it difficult when you have assimilated into a tropical climate. And other than the rainy season and the dry season, your body is just not used to drastic temperature changes. So it's really nice to be able to go home during the summer months, and that way it's a lot easier to adapt. You know, it's still very hot, obviously, in America in August, so it'll be pretty much the same as it is here when I get home, which makes it a lot easier, especially when you have chronic pain issues and nerve damage, because your body is so sensitive to pain. And when you have extreme temperature fluctuations, it really affects your pain level. So that was kind of one of the main reasons that I was looking for a tropical country for my second home. When you have consistent temperatures, even though it's hot, a lot of people can't do the hot weather, but I much prefer that it be hot and consistent all year than, you know, up and down all the time, where you have 20-degree temperature drops in one day. And speak to anyone that's older that has chronic pain issues, whether it be arthritis or nerve pain, neuropathy, and they'll all tell you, you know, man, when the temperature drops, my pain level just goes through the roof, you know. So anyway, we do have a short break in between first semester and second semester at school. So first semester ends mid-August and second semester doesn't start back until first week of September. So, you know, I have about 17 days, I think, where I can go back to America in August when I don't have to worry about the temperature changes, and then I have time to get back before the second semester starts. But now it's 2019 and I arrived in 2015 in Thailand in October, so almost 4 full years living in Thailand full time. I highly recommend it for anyone that's looking for a tropical country for their second home. A number one thing about Thailand that I think makes it unique is the Thai people and the Buddhist culture. Settle down. Blackie, settle down. Come on, let's go. Because regardless of, you know, other things that you're interested in for a second home in a tropical country, like, you know, infrastructure and, you know, access to Western style foods, or, you know, whatever it is that you really want to have in a second country, I think really it all comes down to the people, because that determines the safety and security that you feel when you're in the country. If you know that for the most part, you know, the large majority of Thai people are very friendly and welcoming to foreigners, and they really treat you like family, you know, then you feel very safe, and you don't have to worry about traveling alone, you know, you don't have to worry about being robbed. So to me, it all comes back to the people of the country in which you choose to expat to. So that's my number one of Thailand, is the people. And I think because the people are so friendly and welcoming and genuinely just kind-hearted people, non-confrontational people, that because of that, that adds to the environment of your overall experience living here, because you do feel very safe. Sit, sit, sit. And I think ultimately that's what everybody would want to be concerned about, is how safe is the country. You know, I've traveled to South America before, and the people are very nice and everything too, but there's a lot of, you know, armed gangs and narcos and things that the government is not in control of in some of those countries. So that's why I was very hesitant to actually make the leap of moving to South America. And Central America is pretty much the same. So if you don't choose the tropics of South or Central America, then you have to start looking for tropical regions in the other hemisphere. And that's how I ended up choosing Thailand. And I have to say it was an excellent choice. I mean, my life is just wonderful here. I have zero complaints about living in Thailand, and experiencing the culture has been quite an eye-opener, because our Western culture has so much confrontation. You know, depending on where you're at any given time, you can run into people that just don't have respect or decency or manners. It's very common to run into a confrontational situation in America. As a matter of fact, you're kind of on guard, you know, when you're out traveling around, or you go to the grocery store or 7-Eleven. I mean, you're watching out for shady characters a lot. I mean, it's just common, you know. That doesn't mean the American people are bad people or anything. It's just that our culture has lost the, you know, sense of decency and respect for your elders and all that stuff that most of us older Americans grew up with. So when you saw the oddball, disrespectful person in public, and you had an encounter with people like that, it was the rare thing, you know, kind of rare, because most people just were raised to a point where they had that built-in level of respect for others and courtesies and things like that, you know. And where I'm from, you know, in the Midwest, Kansas, Missouri, and then part of the South, Oklahoma, Arkansas, I mean, people are genuinely very, very friendly, very welcoming, very friendly. If you break down on the side of the road, chances are somebody's going to stop and help you. But things have really changed. So even where I'm from, if you're not talking about the urban areas, just the suburbs or small towns and stuff, you kind of have an instinctive guard built in, looking out for these characters, which are much more common now, you know, whether it's drugs and meth, or just even people that aren't on drugs that are just generally assholes. I mean, it's very likely that you're going to encounter somebody that's confrontational for no particular reason, road rage, whatever it is, right? Or you see people being loud in public, and that's the big difference of the culture here. It's still much like, I think, America in 1950s, to where if somebody's being an asshole in public, you know, really showing their ass, that's very, very rare, and they're going to get shouted down, you know, by all the people that are like, what is wrong with you? But that's the way it is here in Thailand. I mean, like I say, living here 4 years now, traveled around, been to a lot of the big cities, go to the shopping malls, public parks, public tourist areas, you know, you just don't see disrespectful assholes. You just don't see it. It's just not part of their culture. It's not accepted, these behavioral problems that are, it seems like in the West now, are almost like a disability of some kind. Like people are allowed to misbehave because they have special needs or something. And we're not talking about legitimate special needs like people with learning disorders or mental disabilities. We're talking about, you know, our schools in the West now, and I know this because I have several friends that are currently active teachers in the American school system, in government schools, and they'll tell you, like, The teachers have to be trained in de-escalation with students. Students have like this behavioral pass. If they enter the classroom and start throwing chairs around, you can't just send them to the office and get SWATs and kick them out of school, right? Because they have a waiver due to a behavioral disability. I mean, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. So nothing like that exists here in Thailand. You know, I mean, if you misbehave in school and you need a disciplinarian, they've got them ready. You know what I mean? You're not going to get by with disrupting class and being a little brat, right? There's no exception for some behavioral problem that you've supposedly been diagnosed with. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It's like when you come to a country like this as a tourist, you know, you recognize how friendly people are, but most of the people you're dealing with are in a customer service basis, you know, your hotel or your tour guide or whatever it is. And I've never heard people complain about, you know, the welcomeness, friendliness and everything of Thai people when they come here for a tourist trip. As a matter of fact, most people say, wow, you know, Thai people are so friendly and helpful, you know. And then there are those occasions where you have solicitors that are going to try to scam you and get extra money. You know, when you come to Thailand, you got to do your research. If you need a taxi, you don't take a taxi ride from someone that approached you and asked you if you needed a taxi. Anyone approaches you and solicits, you know, something from you, that's not how it works here. So those people are going to scam you. You know, I'm not going to say they're going to, you know, take you somewhere you don't want to go and rip you off or something like that. Lucky, but you're going to pay a higher price. So if you know that, don't go with solicitors that approach you, right? You need a taxi, you go to the line where everybody else is, you pull a ticket number or whatever, and you wait on the metered taxi, whether it's at an airport or wherever you're at. Get a metered taxi. If you're on the street and you need a taxi, the meters have lights. It's in Thai, but it's basically like occupied and available, right? But if it's available, the light will be green, neon light in the windshield will be green. So you just flag them down, you know, you're in a metered taxi, you're not going to get ripped off. The ID and everything of the driver is posted on the dashboard. It's completely legitimate, and those taxi drivers are very friendly. You know, you're never going to have a problem. So that's what you have to keep in mind. It's not like that there aren't scammers and people that are willing to, you know, do you harm in Thailand. I mean, that exists everywhere, right? But very uncommon. And as long as you know that if someone approaches me, whether I'm taking a boat ride to an island or whatever I'm doing, if someone approaches me and says, hey, I got tickets and follow me and I'll help you, just, you know, say no thank you and go to the ticket counter where everybody else goes and buys their tickets. So that's the thing that you need to be aware of. You know, there's it's not like they're bad people, they're just opportunists. They see a tourist, the tourist is a newbie to Thailand. They don't know that you can just go buy all these things yourself and you don't have to pay extra fees for some guided person to take you and get you a ticket, or you know, a private car for a taxi and all this stuff. So those are the kind of things you have to be aware of. But once you're knowledgeable and you know that, and you just do what the locals do, then you don't have a problem, you know. But the biggest part is just your everyday interactions with the public in Thailand is so much different because of the culture. And sometimes it takes, let's go this way, we don't want to get run over, come on. It takes a lot of patience because the English fluency is so low here in Thailand that a lot of people are not going to understand you, right? If you're making a special request or something. So it takes a lot of patience because of the language barrier. But what I found is, for the most part, and literally if you're going where the locals go and you're going to the counter yourself and you're getting metered taxis and you go to the actual bus station to get your bus ticket, or you buy your plane ticket online, you don't need some person that can speak English and is soliciting you to be your guide, and I'll help you and come with me, and and then they recommend a hotel, and what you find out, you end up getting charged more. It's all on the who they know, and they're bringing customers to that hotel, and vice versa. The hotel will call a private cab for you that they know. It's all kickbacks and stuff, and that's why you end up paying more. So as long as you know that you need to do what the locals do, or do what the tourists that have been here many times before do, and that is do everything yourself. You don't need someone to go to the ticket counter for you. You don't need anyone that's approaching you. You don't need their help. Just go do it yourself, and then you're fine. You're going to pay the same price that everybody else pays. But the other interactions, if you're not a tourist and you're living here, or even if you're a tourist and you're just general interactions when you go to the mall or go to the restaurants, I think that you'll find that the culture is so much different, and it takes a while for it to really sink in, and you start looking back at your home country and where you came from and how different the cultures are. And I think this is the reason for the behavioral part that I was discussing. I mean, you just don't run into assholes here. Very, very uncommon that you're going to see some kind of a confrontational situation in public. In pretty much all of Asia, I mean, I can't speak for every country because I know some countries are more aggressive, but it's kind of an Asian culture to not lose face, which means you don't want to embarrass yourself in public, right? So if you don't want to embarrass yourself or cause a scene or show any kind of emotions in public, it's why you don't see Thai men and women kissing in public. It's the same reason, that don't lose face. You just don't do things in public that you may do at home in private. Where our culture, people are more aggressive about their actions and their behavior in public, and then they may be fine at home, So that's a thing that you have to get used to if you're going to enjoy expat life. It's kind of like on you to let go of the cultural ways that you're used to in the West and be very patient. Don't get aggressive. Don't get impatient and start yelling because you don't understand why it's taking so long. Thailand's very chilled, laid back. Everything happens when it happens, and there's no timeline schedule. And I think that most people in the West, we expect to know what's going to happen in the morning, the afternoon, the evening. We've got an agenda for the day, whatever, especially if we're traveling or we're going to events. In Thailand, you just have to kind of let all that Western mentality culture go, leave that behind you, and realize that it's such a cultural difference that all you're going to do is make it more difficult for yourself if you have that Western mentality, that culture of, hey, I got to know everything that's going on. Hey, I'm not used to this, sabai, relax, but so you just enjoy yourself much more if you don't get frustrated and impatient with things. A lot of it is the language barrier, but the biggest portion, I think, even if you have a good companion that can translate your English so you don't really have to worry about the miscommunication or misunderstandings, the biggest part of it is the cultural difference. Such an extreme cultural difference. So when you take somebody from a Western, especially an urban, fast-paced culture where, everybody's kind of aggressive. If you want to get in line, you got to hustle. You got to do all this stuff. It's just, if you do that here, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. If you're aggressive, if you show your ass in public, if you do anything that would, cause you to lose face or be embarrassed, or someone you're with does it, you're really going to stand out here, because most people just don't operate like that here. And again, after you've been away from your culture and exposed to a culture like this for a period of time, like I have for almost 4 full years now, then you look back at your culture And you're like, oh my God, no wonder our public schools are a mess. No wonder our public education's a mess. Like, we allow all these behavioral exceptions where we used to just have a rule. Everybody in the classroom had the same set of rules, right? Violated a rule and you want to toss a chair around or be disrespectful for a teacher, you got sent to the principal's office and got your butt whipped, or called your parents, or got expelled, you know, whatever. Like, all the rules applied to everyone. There was no exception, you know, for your bad behavior. And that's the way it still is in Thailand. And it's not just in the schools, it's in the culture. It's everywhere. You know, you just don't be, you know, disrespectful to anyone in public. You don't get loud. You don't use aggressive body language and throw your hands around, right? So, looking back at what American culture has evolved to this political correct, you know, the schools' hands are tied. The administration can't back up the teachers in the classroom because little Johnny's throwing a temper tantrum, right? You know, no, you can't do that because the school might get sued by the parents. And, you know, a lot of the parents are always blaming the school for their kids' behavioral problems. Everyone knows, right? So on and so on and so on. And then you get away from the school system, and that same behavioral acceptance of bad behavior, disrespect, you know, lack of manners, lack of decency is kind of been accepted in part of our culture. You're like, well, I can't judge, you know, so-and-so because, you know, they're being idiots and, you know, disrespecting people in public, because it's kind of the normal now. It's like, well, maybe they have some problem I don't know about, or they're, you know, they were on Ritalin as a kid, right? So it's been such a transformation in the American culture over the last, you know, say 10, 20 years, that a lot of things that just were not acceptable, that was a violation of the rule. You can't do that. There's going to be consequences if you do that, right? There was a structure based on respect, decency, and manners. And that, you know, there's many things that can define a culture, but I think that's one of the biggest things is overall accepted behavior and rules and structure of the culture, of the mass of the people. What's allowed, what's not allowed. And obviously, when I'm looking back into America and I see the news and I see protesters and I see people that are anti-military and want to storm military bases, I mean, it's just so absurd. You're like, what is going on with people? Like, there's things you're not allowed to do, right? And it's just, you used to be just a given, you know. Nobody would ever approach a secret military base in some kind of a protest. What are you crazy? I mean, there's a reason our military has secrets, you know, so that we're always one step ahead of our enemies, right? We can't allow the public to have information, because then our enemies will have it, right? And so that's the kind of thing I mean. Like, you see people just totally out of control. Like, there's no rules anymore for behavior, right? And here in Thailand, that's the biggest culture shock, and it takes a while for it to really settle in on you, you know, to really completely understand where you're living and why it's so different, and why is it so less stressful. Why do you not see confrontation? Why do you not see bad behavior brat children at the park or at the mall yelling at their parents and being, why do you not see any of that? Why does that not exist here? And it's the culture. You know, and culture is a huge umbrella that covers a lot of different things, from food to art to dancing. But behavioral acceptance within a culture, you know, now Thailand may evolve eventually to where kids start wearing pants, you know, down below their ass, and, you know, all that kind of stuff that we see in America, but it hasn't even begun yet. So, and it just, they preserve their culture by, you know, early childhood development, education, the school systems. There's no PC stuff. There's nobody going to sue the school if little Johnny, you know, gets in trouble, because if little Johnny got in trouble at school, guess what? It's little Johnny. It's nothing the school did. It wasn't the teacher, you know. Not that there aren't incidents where teachers can get out of line, but for the most part, right, it's individual responsibility. You're held accountable for your own actions. So that's what I wanted to rant about a little bit today. It's not really a rant. It's just, if you're considering, you know, expat life in another country, my best advice to you is when you get here, you know, well, first of all, do a lot of research before you come here. But when you get here, know that it's something within you, your cultural tendencies, what's been accepted as the norm back in your country. You need to let all that go within yourself, or you're not going to have as much fun. You're not going to be as relaxed. If you really accept the fact that it's your mindset that has to change, you have to assimilate to this new culture, and it's a beautiful thing when you're able to let that go. Because I used to get so frustrated, you know, at government offices waiting, and I don't know when my name's going to be called. Like, how does this work? You know how we are. We want to know why, when, where, how, right? Every time we go through a process of doing something, and here you just don't do that. Everything happens, everything is orderly, but if you're questioning why, when, where, how, who, all these questions in your mind, you're just going to make yourself frustrated and cause stress that's unnecessary. So if you just accept that you're in a different culture, it's very laid back, there's a lot of benefits from the behavioral standpoint of the people, and you know, that's big part of the Buddhist teachings, you know, is to respect your elders from a very early age. So it's a beautiful thing, but it's something that you really, you know, like I say, it took me time before I really began to enjoy myself when I take a trip in Thailand. Now I just super patient and laid back, and everything happens when it happens, and I understand that that's just kind of how things work here. And if there's ever a problem or a confrontation, it's going to be me causing it. It's not someone else. No, not a Thai person's going to cause my day to have some stress moment in it with confrontation. It's me being impatient and not understanding or something. I may cause it upon myself, but you really don't have to worry about other people being aggressive or causing a scene. It's just not something that happens here. So that's the big difference in culture. There's many differences, obviously, but I think the behavioral thing from an early age of respect and decency and to not lose face in public is a huge difference in culture, and why I think that most people, once they're assimilated here, really are able to enjoy their lives on a level that they couldn't back home, you know, because back home, like I say, you have your guard up when you're traveling around or when you're in the public, because you know it's very common you're going to run into a scene, somebody being loud, or, you know, bratty kids, you know, yelling at their parents, or, you know, if you have children and they're in the public school system, you have to deal with all that, right? And so it's very it's an awakening after you've been in another culture for a while to realize, wow, you know, this is a lot like what my grandparents lived in America, where, you know, people trusted each other, you traded goods, you traded services, the barter system, the handshake, the pay by cash, the buy food directly from the farmer, the respect, the decency, the very uncommon to see, you know, a disbehaving child in public. That's the way it used to be in America, you know, and it's still that way here. So it's a wonderful thing. But again, if you really want to enjoy your life to the fullest extent in another culture like this, you have to let go of all of the things that you are anticipating might happen to you while you're here. You don't need to have your guard up. You need to let go of all that nonsense, and then you'll enjoy yourself so much more. And I hope this makes sense, because it took a while for me to figure it out too. You know, I'm kind of an impatient guy. I want to know how things are going, and get frustrated very easy, and now I just don't. So it's really changed me, and when I go back to America, I know I'm going to be looking at things very differently, you know, from a very different prism that I'm looking through, you know. And it's not a judgmental thing. Look at all these people in America that are just disrespectful. It's not that. It's just, how do I react to all that stuff when I see it now? I just probably will not participate in any confrontation or any arguments, because it's living in another culture has had that effect on me, that I've gained so much more knowledge that I never would have really fully understood without getting away from my culture and assimilating into another. So it's very beneficial to anyone to do this, you know. I recommend it for anyone to really assimilate into another culture that's all about respect and a structured set of rules for behavior that applies to everyone. There's no exceptions, you know. So anyway, peace, love to everyone. Teacher Thomas, love you guys. If you like my videos, you can click subscribe, hit the thumbs up for a like, click the bell if you want to know when I post something new. But I appreciate all the subscribers I do have. Just a small channel, almost up to 200 subscribers now, and you know, I'm not putting out frequent content as much anymore because, you know, I got another life. But appreciate all you guys, and peace and love, and remember, be happy. See you guys. Teacher Thomas, Thailand, out.